Mario Kart 7, which was very much the precursor to Mario Kart 8, and not just because it came before it, but because of the style and everything, you know. But you know what I mean? It had the underwater and the hang gliding and stuff like that. I just killed one.
We knew it was officially going to be happening, and Nintendo has now officially confirmed that the Nintendo 3DS is going to be no more. They have ceased production, and we knew it was only going to be a matter of time. The fact that the Nintendo Switch is a hybrid console that you can either play on your television or on the go, it meant that it surprised absolutely nobody when this was announced. But whether you played something like the Game Boy 1989, or the Game Boy Advance, or even the Nintendo DS, it really could mark the permanent end of a handheld console produced by Nintendo that it's like a lot of us really grew up with this. So we're going to be having this celebratory conversation about the DS, the 3DS, Nintendo handheld gaming in particular, and another exciting episode of A Cast of the Past with a brand new episode available each and every Sunday with yours truly, Juan Velas from Puerto Rico. Joining me once again, we have from Boston, Massachusetts, Ryan McNulty. Now, Ryan, you actually streamed Pokemon games using the 2DS, the 3DS. Mm-hmm. I think as Pokemon fans, you have yet another personal touch, right? With like the Game Boy Color. What was your reaction when inevitably Nintendo said, hey, we're just going to stop doing that?
It like you said, it wasn't a huge surprise. Nintendo usually does pretty good, though, about supporting their handheld systems for quite a while, and I think the 3DS had quite a long lifespan, and even, you know, continued to see games come out for it, even after the Switch had come out, which obviously the Switch became really the new de facto handheld, but it was nice to see that 3DS was very much supported for quite a while after, and I think was an excellent handheld that, you know, when we kind of dig a little bit deeper into it, really was kind of the segue from the DS to the Switch, and I think it was the perfect segue. Just based on the library of games and its ambitious games towards having a more console feel.
Yeah, and in my case, I was actually sadly very late to the 3DS party. Now, when it comes to the DS, I got that around when they came out with the DS Lite. So for context, like, even just looking back at the evolution of handheld games, you know, you can even go all the way back to the Game & Watch, but I think that for the sake of this conversation, it really is like Game Boy, right? And then DS. Mm-hmm. So the first Game Boy, 1989, which will forever be mind-blowing because I was born in 1989, and the fact that we got the Game Boy Color in 1998. So rounded up about a decade after, it's that they came out with a slight improvement. Then we got the Game Boy Advance in 2001. You know, we're not like counting like the Game Boy Pocket, the SP, more so the overall things. The DS came out in 2004, and then the 3DS came out in 2011. What do you think about that evolution, especially with like just that long gap between the evolution of some of these?
Yeah, I mean, the Game Boy really hung on for a long time, and even the Game Boy Color, like you could, there wasn't many Game Boy Color exclusive games, right? You could kind of just play most on both. So really that Game Boy era was forever long. Wow, the way you pointed out, GBA was not a long run, you know? That was only, what was that, only like five?
So
not
2001
even 5 years.
was the GBA, 2004 was the DS. I think that, is it because the initial DS, like, people kind of hated?
So only like a 3-4 year run?
Yeah, yet for me, I feel like the Game Boy Advance lasted like a decade or something, and it did, right? So like it lasted a long time, but the whole process, and I think this is where that conversation that Nintendo even said at one point, hey, the DS, it's like an experiment. You know, the Game Boy Advance was going to be its own thing, and the DS, because of the two screens, because of the touchpad, was kind of being treated as a secondary thing, and eventually it took over. But what do you think about like handheld gaming, especially around that time, right? Between the Game Boy Advance and the DS, just give me your overall impression around that time.
I was very much checked out of the handheld time during I did own a GBA, but didn't have many games on it. Didn't even have Pokemon on it, to be honest. It actually was my sister's. She got it for her birthday, stopped playing it, so it just became mine. I just absorbed it, and yeah, I didn't play too many games during then because, like you, I came into the DS world like really late, as also like DS Lite. But yeah, right towards the tail end when Pokemon Platinum came out, that's when I picked up a DS Lite to play that. So GBA, I think I might have only had like 2 games for it, and then completely checked out until Pokemon Platinum on DS Lite. So this was kind of like the dark period for me with handhelds.
And I think that the conversation is going to be very interesting to talk about the DS and the 3DS in like, let's say like a decade or something, because I remember when they announced the DS, honestly, I didn't get it. I saw the 2 screens, and when they talked about touchscreen, it's like, look, let's not forget, this is before like smartphones, right? Before all of this is like a regular part of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I understood what they were going for, but I honestly thought, nah, man, hell no. The future is still just going to be like the new Game Boy Advance. What did you think about that first iteration of the DS?
It was not pretty looking, that's for sure. But
No.
I also was kind of with you, like, oh, I don't get it. Like 2 screens, like this is gonna be confusing because when I think they kind of scared some people sometimes when they had footage of like when like a cutscene or something would use both screens, and you're like, how am I supposed to follow that or whatever? But then when you realize, very much like how people love to have 2 monitors now, like that's like a complete standard, to have like even just a map screen at the bottom and then your game up top is so nice. There's so many nice things you can do with having 2 screens, and you really like once you start playing some DS games and that especially utilize 2 screens very, very well, you don't want to leave it, really. I mean, and that's one of the disadvantages of like when you even talk about Wii U versus Switch, that you do sometimes miss that second screen, not gonna lie.
No, I actually was looking up I was streaming, right? You were on stream when I was just like randomly looking up different DS games that maybe I didn't play. And then I looked up gameplay for Contra 4 on the DS, and my mind was blown because it actually takes both screens, and the character can either be at the bottom, but the enemies could be at top. All of a sudden, the character could be at the top one, and then the enemies are underwater at the bottom. And something that you said now, I'm like, what? You freaking blew my mind. It's like, as weird as I saw 2 screens, like I'm looking at 2 screens right now, right? And
Yeah.
there's been times where I'm like, I think I could add a third one. And I think that the DS maybe even opened up Pandora's box as like maybe you only need 1 screen because it's all you know. But when you open up that possibility, something as simple as go and jump into the 3DS, like I've been playing Ocarina of Time. It may just seem insignificant, but having the menu at the bottom screen,
It's
I
very, very
just do
nice.
not envision. I don't think I could ever play a Zelda game that requires me to pause a menu because it's like it should just be at the bottom, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that they gutted out of Breath of the Wild when they were releasing it on the Switch, is that like going through items is like really clunky in that game, and you can tell it's because they had to last minute shift that with Wii U to Switch. But yeah, exactly. For Ocarina of Time 3D, it's so much nicer having the dedicated Ocarina button there, because you can add all these extra things. You know, you only had the 3C buttons with your items
It
on
doesn't break the
N64.
flow.
Yeah. And yeah, having a dedicated Ocarina button, obviously they, just being able to have more than just the what the buttons allow, because they actually have 2 extra item slots that are basically just touch item slots. So there's just so many things you can do with that screen, and the DS is really the one that opened that up, and it doesn't surprise me that they kept that going and just took it to the next level by bringing that basically similar concept with the 3DS, but just, more power behind it, and obviously the gimmick of 3D.
So once we made the switch to the Nintendo DS, and Nintendo, I want to say it's like they never officially canceled the Game Boy lineup, right? They kind of just substituted one for the other. was there a time where you thought they should go back to a more traditional format, or at least with the handheld side of things, did you think that, hey, we made the switch to 2 screens, it's the only way to go?
I think I think they did the right thing by continuing that momentum with the 2 screens. The DS sold really, really well, and I think they
Stupidly
realized,
well.
yeah, it sold extremely well, and people enjoyed it. So why not just put more power behind it? There was more things you could do with it, and just come out with a stronger version of the DS.
And I'm just thankful they made that revision, because the initial DS didn't have a backlit screen, which to me was just mind blowing because
They had the SP, right?
yeah, right. It's
Well,
like,
I mean, when did the SP come out versus the DS? I don't. Who knows
if you
about
can look that up, yeah,
I will look it up.
because we had the Game Boy Advance SP, which took something that was already amazing in the Game Boy Advance and it made it like 45 times better with an awesome screen. Even though I think long term people have gone a lot more back to the old school like sideways Game Boy Advance. But then they came out with this bulky design of the DS. I remember I got my hands on it. I think it was like an electronic boutique or something like that. And I'm like, man, this is ugly. This feels
Yeah.
older than the Game Boy Advance SP. So logically and thankfully, they introduced the DS Lite, which, holy crap, I mean, the difference is just
Infinitely
insane.
better. Yeah. So the SP came out in February 2003, and then the DS came out in November 2004. So they should have known better.
Yeah, right?
Should have known, but I really don't get it. The backlit screen, obviously they learned the lesson moving forward because every handheld has had it since. But yeah, I don't know what they were thinking there.
Have you seen it? This is like kind of off topic. Have you seen that some people actually modify the DS Lite where they chop off the top screen? And what they do is they sometimes even get a shell and make it into a Game Boy Advance. Like, because, the Game Boy Advance slot is actually at the bottom. So you can
Yep.
do some stuff where it's only like a tiny modified GBA. Have you seen that?
I actually haven't. That's really interesting though. But I would say, why is it that bad to just play GBA games on the DS Lite? I did it. It's not that big of a deal.
For the video version, I'm showing it here right now, but it's pretty self-explanatory. It's imagine just a DS without the top screen. I mean, at that point, you can just get like a Game Boy Advance, but I kind of get it because it's the best of both worlds, right? So it takes the old school GBA style where it's like sideways instead of the screen at the top,
Yeah.
and then you get a nice backlit screen. So I guess that's what they were
Yeah.
maybe going for.
I guess some people didn't like the style of the
top
SP.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2004, we got the DS. Eventually, we got the DS Lite. 3DS comes out in 2011. What was Ryan playing around that time, 2011?
2011, probably playing some Skyward Sword. I had just gotten a Wii, so I was playing a little bit of Mario Kart, a little bit of Wii boxing, and some Skyward Sword. That would be my game of choice.
I don't know about you, but when the 3DS was announced, my first reaction was why? Not even because of the 3D, but in 2011, I do think a lot of people did start having this conversation of like, do we need this? It's kind of like I think the speculation about smartphones taking over the mobile market for video games because you could just plug in a Bluetooth controller. Obviously, it's not as comfortable, but the 3DS comes out. They talk about the 3D. I don't get it. And I own a new Nintendo 3DS XL. I wanted to make sure I get it right. Nintendo and Xbox have like this competition of who can come up with the shittiest names. I think it's a tie. No, Nintendo still wins because you can buy a used new Nintendo 3DS XL, so they will forever win.
Yeah, that is just calling something like a new Super Mario Brothers, new Nintendo 3DS. It's just like, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
Yeah, it was never a good choice.
Xbox is really cutting it close though recently.
I saw a couple.
They're really trying to take the mantle.
Yeah, I saw somebody proudly be like, "I pre-ordered the Xbox, shipping soon." It's like, dude, you got the one, man. You got the one Xbox. That's not the one you wanted to get.
There's a lot of memes on Reddit of like all the kids are going to be disappointed when they get this on Christmas and it's the Xbox One X. So it's going to be happening.
Sad time. So at least for me, I applaud Nintendo for taking 3D on a mobile market, where even on the
And
television,
going glasses-free 3D during... So Avatar, not The Last Airbender, but Avatar Blue People movie really kicked off this whole 3D craze where everything, 3D TVs, 3D, every movie had to have a 3D version. Nintendo comes along at really a great time and says, hey, glasses free 3D. And that was a very cool gimmick to start out with. Not only that, but the smartest decision they ever made was to have that little slider to say, if you don't want to deal with this, you can shut it right off.
Do you know anybody that actually put the slider to like the middle? It's like the weird option, right?
Yeah.
But just like, it's like, no, man, I'm a big fan of like 67% 3D.
Yeah, maybe people who want like a slight bit of depth. I don't know. Like the only time people did that, at least that I saw, was just to see what it looked like when you did that. But nobody ever really left it at that setting.
As somebody, you know, we both had got some iteration of it. Did you ever feel comfortable using the 3D with it?
I never did it more than like a couple minutes just to kind of be like, oh, let me just kind of experience this again. Most of the versions I own, so I at one point I owned 4 3DSs. So I had I had the 2DS, the chunky, the chonker, the 2DS model. Then I had 2 more versions of these with capture cards. Now you own one of those.
Yes.
So I still have that. Then I had a 3DS XL, and that kind of became my favorite. And that one I really enjoyed, the bigger screen, because eventually, like, because I had the capture card, the chonkier one, I was like, I don't need this kind of other one. I'd like a bigger screen. And I got that, and I really loved it. And that was a 3DS version, and I did use the 3D sometimes. Unfortunately, my landlord at my last place accidentally left some water on too long with our pipes, and it flooded my room. And like, being the smart person that I was, having my 3DS on the floor next to my bed, because I just put it down when I wanted to go to bed, and then the water just completely destroyed it. I had either A Link Between Worlds or Ocarina of Time 3D in the console, and luckily the game is fine. It was not damaged, but the console was just completely dead to rights. It just never powered on again. So when I got the news that it discontinued, I picked up a new 2DS XL that came with Mario Kart 7. This was just the prettiest looking one.
How much is that?
Was there. This was, I want to say, like $140, brand new. But I ended up getting this one. There were a couple different ones. There was like an orange and white one, but this one just looked the most aesthetically pleasing, and I did not care about the 3D. I was trying to find a 3DS one. It was just harder to find, and I wanted to get the new version just because I know like Super Nintendo games are available, and there are some exclusive games. I don't see myself picking any. Maybe
there's only like 4. I think it's Minecraft, Xenoblade,
like
and just in case for the audio version, because like the 3DS pisses me off, man. So we get the 3DS, and then can you actually look up while I'm trying to attempt this? It's like how many DSs and 3DSs and 2DSs we got, because we got the 3DS, and then I love how this is supposed to be like remembering and celebrating the 3DS. Here I've just like shitting out this part here, but we get that one, then we get an XL. Eventually we get the new models, which are like they're slightly better performing. Some games take a benefit of that. For those who don't know, like you can play Super Nintendo games on the 3DS, but you can't do that with the old ones. You got to use the new 3DS lineup. And then they eventually said, "Oh, I guess people didn't like the 3D." They came out with the Nintendo 2DS. And then they came out afterwards eventually with the one that Ryan got, which is the new Nintendo 2DS, which is a flip style version without the 3D. I think that's what happened.
Okay. Yeah, so Nintendo DS got 4 different models. You got Nintendo DS, you got DS Lite, you got DSi, and then you got DSi XL. The 3DS got 6 different models. You had the original Nintendo 3DS, you got a 3DS XL, you got a Nintendo 2DS, you got a new Nintendo 3DS, you got a new Nintendo 3DS XL, and then a new Nintendo 2DS XL.
Oh, I have no idea. Was that English, man? I have no idea what the hell you just said. That's so
Basically,
confusing.
yeah, we got what, 50% more models. We got 50% more 3DS models than we did DS models. So
Hell no.
there you go.
Holding that one there, because I know we're not exactly the best people to talk about this, because maybe our time with these consoles were more limited as opposed to maybe like the Game Boy Advance or something. I have no doubt that right now you were able... which place did you buy that new Nintendo 2DS?
I just got it off of Amazon.
Okay, so right now it's still fairly accessible, but I guarantee you by this time next year, that's not going to be the case. And those prices, not just for the console, because it's like on my Twitch channel, we actually did it, like you were on chat, where we looked up the games, and the game prices are pretty like... the worst
standard
I saw,
at this point.
yeah, the worst that I saw is like used games at new game prices, but it's nothing insane like $200 for a game. But I guarantee you, man, that by this time next year, that's not going to be the case. Which, based on what we've seen, based on your experience with a couple of the games, if you were to recommend one model in particular, which one would you recommend?
I would definitely recommend either a new 2DS or new 3DS XL. That to me is just the kind of definitive version of it. And the standard XL version is fine too if you can find it. It's just if you're looking for a new model, the stupid naming. If you're looking for like
you're getting pissed explaining this.
If you want a sealed version, CIB,
that's C.
That's CIB, man. Then like it's easier to find the new versions of it.
Okay, Ryan. So if I were to get a used model, which would be the best?
Don't trigger me. Yeah, no, just get any of the XL ones. I think are fine. Now, I know you've talked about you like the 2DS version, and for playing Pokemon, I'm with you. It's nice and comfortable, fits in your hand. The problem is a game like Zelda, the shoulder buttons. I'm not as big of a fan of the shoulder buttons on the 2DS, like the chonky 2DS model. It's just, for some reason, it doesn't work that great for me. I'm not a huge fan of it, and that's one of the reasons I was like, all right, I want to have at least one of the clamshell versions of it, even though, like I said, I technically have I have 3 3DSs now. I used to have 4.
What I hate is that we should have a conversation maybe by this time. Oh, by end of year, we should do like some kind of episode of like the retro game pickups we did. Like Keith would not be part of that conversation because he gave up on that a while ago. But Ryan and I, especially on the Discord, people, like, if you want to see what Ryan's been up to, check out the Discord, acastofthepast.com/Discord.
I just got another game today, too.
Ryan!
Now that I have an N64, I had to get Majora's Mask, too, okay?
Of course you have to.
I got it for under $50, which is pretty good for Majora's Mask, so.
Not bad, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm addicted.
It happens, man. It
Fossil
happens.
Fighters for the DS. We gotta get it.
Oh my goodness.
It's rare.
I feel like we got to give a shout out to Sir B1, everybody on the Discord. We have a video game section, and there we share our recent pickups, and there's a lot of awesome stuff. Seriously, for those that are part of the Discord, thank you. You make this podcast like super fun because I feel like it's just like a natural follow up. It's like the conversation is just kind of a follow there, but I think we are in a time in gaming, especially with handhelds, because handhelds have screens. Like, there's these different things that when you get something used, you got to worry about that, right? Like when I bought the Wii U, I wasn't going to spend like $500 on a new model. So I had to go to eBay and be like, okay, what's going to happen? I remember when I rebought a Game Boy Advance SP, it's like getting a used one was a pain because sometimes the screen is messed up and all of that. So the impulse of just like, I already have a Nintendo 3DS XL. You sent me the 2DS with the capture card. I was like, oh, now's the time, man.
Well, it is. I'll say that, like I said, I basically got it for the price you would expect to get. So if you do want to dive into 3DS at any point and you haven't yet, now is the time to get it. And if you want to probably try and make some money, though, full disclosure, this is not a guarantee and whatever. But if you were to buy a sealed one now and hold on to it, you could probably make some money down the line.
Right.
And it's very easy to get one right now.
So what you're saying is...
I am not a financial advisor.
No. What you're saying is it worth buying a new Nintendo 3DS XL in 2020?
In 2020? I would say yes.
Not a new model. A new model.
A sealed new model. CIB.
This conversation's kind of pissing me off.
But what I did want to circle back with the 3DS library. And even though my collection literally behind me is for 3DS, it is literally nothing but Pokemon and Zelda as my 3DS collection. That's it. I just got Mario Kart 7 because it was included in this 2DS. The library of games, I will say, I was trying to make the point earlier that I felt like this was almost the Switch before the Switch, in that they tried to kind of push console-like games on the 3DS. Of course, we got, Ocarina of Time 3D and things like that, but even putting a new Luigi's Mansion and Mario Kart 7, which was very much the precursor to Mario Kart 8, and not just because it came before it, but because of the style and everything, But you know what I mean? It had the underwater and the hang gliding and stuff like that. I just killed Juan.
Thoughts so deep, man. You're so deep.
But you understand what I'm saying. It took Pokemon to 3D. It had a lot of console-like games. Are you alive, Juan? Are you alive? You're not ready yet.
Okay, I'm back. I'm a professional. We're still. I'm crying, man. I'm crying. Okay.
Well, because I felt like I'm saying, Mario Kart 7 was the precursor to Mario Kart 8. Wow. I would have never guessed that.
People, this is what you subscribe for, whether it be on podcast apps or YouTube. That right there is the content that you look for.
The hashtag hot take.
Okay, so we got 1,343 games for the Nintendo DS. I feel like this is the actual conversation that I want to have. Wow, I legit cry. Look at that right now. So
you're welcome.
I recently bought a Link Between Worlds. I bought Super Mario 3D Land because I love World, and I had never played this one, and it's freaking awesome, right? Like, you were part of there when I streamed that. So knowing the track record with the Game Boy Advance and DS, these games will go up eventually. Like, there is going to come a point in time where you will not spend $20 to get a game, especially like that CIB, man. Complete in box, not going to happen. I have those games. I have Samus Returns. I have Ocarina of Time 3D. I don't have Majora's Mask. Like, I know we're not the professionals here for the 3DS, so we're also asking everybody watching and listening, like, if you were to name your top 5, top 10 3DS games to definitely have, especially before value goes up, Ryan, in your case, it's like, is there any game that comes to mind? Because to me, it's like Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, which pisses me off that I never bought it.
Oh, what I was going to say is, and now I'm glad I bought Alpha Sapphire, even though I haven't played it. Like I said, my entire collection is nothing but Zelda and Pokemon, but I do recommend literally every single one of them. I haven't I haven't played Majora's Mask 3D, but it's probably a more friendly version to newcomers to Zelda than the original version is. So I'll give it that. But yeah, Link Between Worlds, Ocarina 3D are incredible. Pokemon X and Y aren't like my number one games to play, but they are still fun. But the real meat and potatoes for Pokemon is Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, as well as Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I think both of those are some of the best Pokemon games out there and some of the most beloved, particularly Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, because a lot of people were kind of like, not too many people were. I mean, there's a lot of people who love Gen 3, but there's a lot of people who aren't big on it. But this really made Gen 3 like insane with all the stuff that they packed into Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. So there's some of the straight up best Pokemon games you can play. So those are my biggest experiences. And then of course I bought a lot of Pokemon and Zelda stuff on the 3DS Virtual Console. So it's a great way to play some of the old games too, especially if you don't have a Wii U and, the Switch is taking its sweet time releasing games.
Can't with some of them, you can actually transfer Pokemon online or something like that?
Yes, there's like there was the Pokemon Bank service, but now there's Pokemon Home, so you can still get all your Pokemon over to your Switch as well. Whatever you play, whatever you get in the 3DS versions, you can eventually port whatever ones onto your Switch, and then whatever ones are available in Sword and Shield, you can actually use them.
Okay, so interestingly enough, I decided to head over to a Metacritic just to bring some closure and also context for you and me, because it's like, now is the time, right? This also includes digital games, but hey, I mean, the Wii U Latin shop was shut down in Latin America, so... it was the Latin shop in Latin America, so it's going to be shut down. Oh, no! I pulled a Ryan. Okay, too late.
Yeah.
Too late. I'm like, guess what? Guess where the Wii shop in Latin America is? In Latin America. Oh, so bad. Okay, so some of the games here: Fire Emblem Birthright, Monster Hunter Generations, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. That one I want to buy. It's like, I've actually never played a Luigi's Mansion game, by the way.
Really? Not even the game. Like, I love the GameCube one, so I don't know why I just haven't gone to the other ones. And now that you said it, you're right. Now is the time. If all I have is Pokemon and Zelda, there's a bunch of stuff I need to pick up. So now I need to get...
This is a scary conversation now.
I got to check out 3D Land. I got to get Luigi's Mansion. At least I got Mario Kart 7, basically.
People expect some sexy pickups from Ryan on the Discord.
Yeah. Yep.
So, Steam World Heist, but that's available pretty much everywhere. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I've heard really great things about
Kid
that.
Icarus Uprising. A lot of people
right, but that
about
one is actually tricky because it has some kind of like attachment for how you place the 3DS, because apparently it was a little bit uncomfortable to hold it a certain way. So, I mean, if you want to complete in box, it's going to cost you a little bit more.
In case you were wondering, New Super Mario Brothers 2 is already installed on that 2DS I sent you.
Oh, yeah,
so
I have that there. Exactly. So there's Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, Zero Escape Virtuous Last Reward. I still need to buy this 3D Streets of Rage 2. It's the Sega Genesis game, and people say like that game looks freaking awesome in 3D. And there's like a Sega sale sometimes that happens. Majora's Mask is a top 10 at Metacritic with 89. Super Mario 3D Land, Shovel Knight, which I actually have, A Link Between Worlds, Fire Emblem Awakening, and Ocarina of Time. Okay, so I actually have the top 5 highest rated games for 3DS. Ryan, do you have them? Do you have them?
Do I have the top 5? I do not. I don't have Fire Emblem, and I don't have anything that isn't Pokemon or Zelda, basically.
But people, hopefully you enjoyed this trade rag. Don't be afraid to suggest, especially like those more underrated games, because like there over 1,000 games, right? I would love to know how many physical releases. Like I looked up the general amount of games available on 3DS, but it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Thanks to Ryan, I have a video capture card on that 2DS, and I know there's emulation and all of that, but it is going to be challenging to figure out if they do something like the GBA consolizer. They did that with the GBA, where you can strip it down, you can transform it, turn it into a console. It's super expensive, never going to do it. But
yeah,
please let us know.
If that capture card breaks, we're screwed.
Yeah, it's like, I got to take care of that.
Yeah, we can't buy them anymore, unfortunately, so...
Well, we got to do some more. Hopefully, we can schedule like a future stream with the 2DS or 3DS or something, so I can just bring you on over. People can hang out. Usually, by the way, especially for those on the audio version of the podcast, I've already had 2 streams, including Keith on my Twitch channel. But because it's like 2 people of a cast of the past, that's actually gone up on the YouTube channel. So whenever we make reference to all this stuff, it's like it's part of a big happy family, right? So you can check out those on the video archive. You can leave that 5-star review. And don't forget, once again, to react to my great thing about the Latin American shop in Latin America, or to the fact that before 8, we got 7. A castofthepast.com/Discord. We can have that conversation. And I don't know, man. A cast
to the
past. So, Ryan, can you confirm this information? Okay.
Yeah.
7, 8. What comes after 8?
I don't know. Microsoft would say 10.
Oh, that's true. Oh, damn it. That's a good answer.